I've gotten pretty used to sharing my opinions about art, and it wouldn't be unreasonable for someone who doesn't know me watching my videos to think that I think I'm some sort of authority. And if you're wondering right now, I'm not. I don't think that. I just have opinions. But it should also be noted that when it comes to the best way to practice your art, most of the authorities on the subject are also just sharing their opinions and personal experiences. And this is not me putting anyone down or saying these people aren't talented or knowledgeable. That's not what I mean. It's just that art is rarely ever objective. Practicing art, appreciating it, interpreting it, it's all very subjective, meaning, of course, that it is subject to context and an individual's personal opinions and tastes and preferences. So what I'm trying to say is there are no absolute rules about creating your art. Now, are there best practices? Of course, especially when it comes to reaching specific goals. Are there lots of good pieces of advice that work for a lot of people? Of course. Are there design principles like the concept of balance and contrast and color? Yeah, sure. And certain rules of physics are at play too, I suppose. Like, I don't know, watercolor on wet paper will bleed. Okay, you know what I mean though. When it comes to the creative process, it is never an exact science, like, say, math. In art, sometimes 2 + 2 = 4, sometimes it equals 5, and sometimes it equals banana. Certainly you can learn a lot from artists with more experience or just those who simply have different experiences than your own. Their wisdom can be invaluable, but when applying their advice to your own practice, it's fine to adjust and experiment to suit your goals. It's also okay if you do this and then later find that maybe their original advice was the path that would have worked best for you. It's never too late to pivot. One example that comes to mind that I see all the time that seems to have a lot of controversy attached to it is whether you should draw every day to get better. And don't get me wrong, I think discussion and discourse are good things, but people can get really worked up about this debate. The truth is, daily drawing works for some people. It may not be feasible for others. Also, you wouldn't have to draw for hours each day. You could draw an hour one day and then 5 minutes the next. Or you could skip a day or several. Or you could forget this altogether and simply just draw when you feel like it. The more you practice something, the better you will get at that particular thing. So deciding what advice you want to follow in your art is going to be about what you specifically want to accomplish. Something I feel is often forgotten too is the fact that sometimes people can do art solely for the fun of it without ever trying to improve, so to speak. There's a lot of focus on getting better or being more skilled with your art, and I think sometimes we forget about the sheer joy of creating without necessarily having to be good at it at all. There is nothing wrong with wanting to further your skill set, but I feel perhaps the most important thing art can give us is that enjoyment. Maybe part of that enjoyment for some does include being able to make more realistic looking pieces or making a career out of it. And that's great. There is absolutely nothing wrong, though, with being an artist who simply enjoys the feel of paint or pencil on paper without any desire for what you might call improvement. So whatever your goal is, I hope you won't stress about what you think you quote unquote should be doing in your art practice. Or if you hear two artists say two completely different things, just know that neither one is necessarily wrong. Their advice is probably right for someone. Don't be afraid to try something with your art that goes against common wisdom. Allow yourself to explore and experiment, and don't stress out because you don't know what advice to follow or because one person says something you don't agree with, and don't be discouraged because something isn't working out, because you can always try something else. Personally, I feel very much that I'm right now at a point creatively where I'm just kind of lost and floating around, but I'm really not too concerned about it at the moment. I think sometimes the fact that there are truly endless possibilities in creating art is a blessing, but also, well, I won't say a curse, but it can be a challenge because we can get so overwhelmed by choices and possibilities. So it is nice to have advice and guidance from others. It's nice to have a sort of blueprint you can follow if you choose, but don't get hung up on these things and mistake a recommendation for a rule. Thank you for watching, and if you enjoyed this video, maybe share it with your art friends. And also, you might be interested in this video or maybe this one right here.